Hi everybody, this is Ashley with Ashley Says So, and I am back with another old Hollywood scandal video. And I must admit that Jocelyn Wildenstein is not a normal celebrity from my celebrity list, but look at her. Doesn't it seem like she has a very interesting story to tell? Especially when you start digging into all of the little details and find out that she actually used to look like this. Honey, you already know there is some type of scandal or at least tea to be had after this disclaimer.
Everything in this video is alleged and is for entertainment purposes only. As you all know, I gather gossip and info from magazines, TVs, books, blogs, wherever I can find it. Also, please do your own research.
Jocelyn Wildenstein was born on September the 7th, 1945 in Lausanne, Switzerland. Her mother's name was Lillian Wildenstein and her father's name was Armand Wildenstein. And it's rumored that Jocelyn's parents may have been on the shady side. Oh, they worked normal jobs and did normal things during the day, but at night it's claimed that there may have been some risque phone calls to several wealthy men letting them know that they had a gorgeous daughter who was willing and ready to entertain. So it was possibly one of those situations like the parents who were involved with Arkells, if you catch my drift. Now, I can't say for sure if Jocelyn was entertaining while she was underage, but I can say for sure that by the age of 17, she was in an actual relationship with Swiss film director Cyril Piguet. And after Jocelyn ended things with Cyril, she very quickly moved to Paris, where she started dating and living with Italian/French filmmaker Sergio Gobi. And life with Sergio was very easy on Jocelyn, as it usually is with women who date wealthy men. You know, Jocelyn lived in luxury. She spent her time learning how to hunt. She also became a pilot. She also used her magnificent looks to book several modeling jobs. But contrary to many stories out about Jocelyn, modeling was not her main goal. You see, modeling was still working, and gossip claims that Jocelyn's goal was to have a wealthy man marry her so she wouldn't have to work. But for some reason, even with the astounding beauty that Jocelyn possessed, Sergio just didn't seem keen on marrying her. So soon, Jocelyn was on her way to try to find not only bigger and better men, but a bigger and better man who would put a ring on her finger. So she dated around on the elite scene for quite a while, being the beautiful woman who went from one wealthy man's arm to another. And for a minute, it seemed like this is all it was going to be. Like Jocelyn was just going to be one of those gorgeous girls that all the wealthy men passed around and had fun with, but would never marry. And Jocelyn's time was very nearly close to being up. Lots of times when wealthy men date women for their beauty or their bedroom skills, those women have up until about the age of 30 before those men start to see them as old news. And by the year 1977, Jocelyn, who was at least 31 by now, was really pushing it. However, the stars aligned and the gods smiled down on Miss Wildenstein, because she ended up dating, or according to some sources, became friends with a Saudi Arabian arms dealer named Adnan Khashoggi. And one weekend in 1977, Adnan took Jocelyn on an African hunting excursion where they stayed at a place called Old Jogi Wildenstein Ranch. And when they got to this ranch, Jocelyn could not believe her eyes. It was a sprawling estate, had 200 buildings, 55 man-made lakes, 2 huge swimming pools, and about 366 servants. And trust you me, Jocelyn had seen money before, but money of this caliber blew her hair right off into the African jungles. Right from the beginning, Jocelyn started to have her fun, baby. She was hunting, she was exploring, going on safaris, just having a blast with her man, or AKA friend, Adnan. But about 2 or 3 days later, when Adnan's friend showed up, baby, Jocelyn knew a decision had to be made. You see, Adnan's friend was a man named Alec Wildenstein. And yes, when I say Wildenstein, I mean like Old Jogi Wildenstein. Child, when Jocelyn put 2 and 2 together and found out that this Alec Wildenstein guy was the owner of this ranch, oh, her sweet gaze and megawatt smile turned his way instantly. During her flirtations and conversations with Alec, Jocelyn found out that the Wildensteins were a family of billionaire art dealers. Basically, they were a mega wealthy dynasty. So although Adnan, the man that Jocelyn had come to this vacation with, had a lot of money himself being an arms dealer, Alex's money was more steady and less dangerous. So soon that eye-batting and smiling that Jocelyn was doing to Alec turned into back pats and thigh rubs. And it's possible it turned into something even more than that. But since that is not verifiable, all I am going to say is by the time everybody left the ranch to go back to their homes, Alec Wildenstein was head over heels in love. And he didn't waste a moment, honey. He contacted Jocelyn immediately. And soon they started spending all of their time together. Alec even took Jocelyn to meet his family. And Jocelyn made sure to put on a pristine performance in front of his parents. But try as she might, Alec's father just did not like her. It's like he saw her coming from a mile away. Alex's father disliked Jocelyn so much that he told Alec straight up that he didn't like Jocelyn and he didn't want him to go further with Jocelyn. But the stars were still smiling down on Jocelyn, and instead of Alec agreeing with his father, he actually became upset with his father interfering and started to cling to Jocelyn even more. As a matter of fact, very soon after this, he asked Jocelyn to marry him. And in April of 1978, the couple ran away from everybody to Las Vegas and they eloped. And I guess the marriage was happy in the beginning, but it wasn't long before Jocelyn realized that she'd married somebody who probably really only liked her for her looks. Literally. Per Jocelyn, it was very early in their marriage when Alex started to display a strange disposition when it came to her looks. She claimed that for their first wedding anniversary, Alec came to her telling her that he had scheduled a his and hers plastic surgery appointment as a gift because he had some things he wanted to fix on himself, and he also saw some things on Jocelyn that should be fixed as well. And I don't know if Jocelyn was mortified at the fact that her husband was not completely satisfied with her looks and he actually wanted to kind of change her look or direct the way that she looked. But whether she was mortified or not, when the day of the appointment came, Jocelyn was there bright and early getting her face changed. And it's very possible that this was just a one-time thing that Alec wanted to do. But even if it was supposed to be a one-time thing in Alex's eyes, Jocelyn didn't see it that way. She felt that if her husband wanted her to change something about her face to suit his needs once, he was going to always want that. And so she kind of started living with a delusional fear that if she didn't always have her looks updated to accommodate what her husband was attracted to, he would leave her for somebody else who did. And about 2 or 3 years into their marriage, when Alec allegedly started cheating on Jocelyn repeatedly, this fear was compounded. And it wasn't the cheating per se that bothered Jocelyn, but just the fact that Alec might see another face with the features that he liked that just drove Jocelyn crazy. Rumor has it during the 1980s, Alec was always taking some sort of business trip. And whenever Alec would come home from these so-called business trips, Jocelyn would always be healing from a procedure. Her nose might be thinner. Her jawline might be more chiseled and defined. Or maybe her chin would be fuller. And it's claimed that very soon after she started getting all of these procedures back to back, that Alec actually told her, you know, Jocelyn, you're going under the knife kind of a lot. You know, that's very dangerous and you can't fix everything. But the problem was, at the same time he was saying things like this, he was also saying things that made Jocelyn feel like she should go under the knife even more. For example, story says that one night Jocelyn and Alec were alone on a date, or they were on a vacation or something like that. But while they were eating or talking, an elderly couple passed by. And per the rumor, Alec became completely disgusted by the couple. Said he told Jocelyn something to the effect of, you know, look at their saggy skin. Ugh, I hate those wrinkles. Their white hair. I hate getting old. I hate old people. I don't even like to be around them. And his reaction was so visceral that that it instantly became another deep-seated fear for Jocelyn. Now she's feeling like not only does she have to keep her facial features up to par for her husband, she also has to make sure that she shows no signs of aging. So now Jocelyn is going under the knife triple time. And by the mid-1980s, people are talking, honey. All of their wealthy friends, especially the wealthy women, are all gossiping about how much surgery Jocelyn has had. As a matter of fact, one friend went on record and said that every time she visited Jocelyn, she was always healing from something. She always had a bandage on her face or somewhere on her body, just always healing from being cut somewhere on her body. And although Jocelyn had all of these surgeries and it had been a problem for quite a while, she still was not to the point of overly doing it. And she still was considered a great beauty. But somewhere around this same time of the mid-1980s, Jocelyn's husband said something that would change all of that. And all Alex said is that he loved the way that a lynx looked. He said he thought the lynx was the most beautiful of all of the wild cats. And there is nothing and was nothing wrong at all with Alex saying this, but he probably shouldn't have said it in front of a woman who had now dedicated her whole life to changing her looks to fit her husband's desires. Because gossip claims after Jocelyn heard her husband say this, baby, she went to work. Child, them folks say that Jocelyn's eyes immediately became lifted and tight. Said her lips became more and more voluptuous. Said her cheekbones were chiseled and volumized to the gods. And it was clear to everybody around in their circle, at least, that she was changing herself or her features into that of a cat. And not just any cat, into that of a lynx. And I don't think Alex said much at first when Jocelyn started basically morphing into an animal. But somewhere along the way, it is alleged that he told her that, please stop. You really need to stop, Jocelyn. You cannot do your face that way. Skin is not like furniture. You cannot just rearrange your skin and your face like you rearrange furniture in a room. Said Jocelyn told him once again that was nonsense, and she would continue to try to achieve the perfect look that he wanted. But that right there is the thing that I don't really understand about Jocelyn Wildenstein. She allegedly always told people when she finally admitted to having surgery, but she allegedly always told people that she did these surgeries because this is what Alec wanted. But even if he did want her to do something in the beginning, it's very clear now that he's telling you to stop. So as much as Jocelyn didn't want to admit it, it was not Alec who wanted her to transform her face that way. It was her. She had become addicted to the surgery table and she simply could not stop. And Alex's earlier years of cheating with other women may not have had anything to do with his wife's looks. But now that Jocelyn was doing all of this, many people believe that Alec did start cheating due to Jocelyn's looks. And that is just so ironic, because if Jocelyn is to be believed, that is the whole reason she got on this surgery train in the first place, to try to keep her face where her husband liked it, so he would never find another woman's face more attractive than hers. But like I said before, it was quite clear, especially to the people who were around them, Alec was indeed now looking for a woman who he did find more attractive than his wife. Per the rumors, he actually started to give off an energy that to other people felt like he couldn't even stand the sight of Jocelyn. Like during the 70s and the 80s, he would still show up to the social functions or the wealthy gatherings with Jocelyn on his arm. He would be seen out in public with Jocelyn. They would go dining, maybe go into an upscale venue in New York. But now Alec would be by himself. He of course had other women that he was dealing with and sleeping with, but he did not want the public to know that he was dealing with other women. So he wouldn't bring them to the functions. But like I said, allegedly he was so mortified of the way Jocelyn looked, he would just come along. However, though, in the year 1996 or the year 1997, that all changed. Alex started to show up everywhere with a beautiful model, and her name was Yelena Yarakova. And Yelena Yarakova was a Russian girl who was around 19 or 20 years old. Alec is spending all of his time with her, and he's also falling in love with her. And Jocelyn has no idea her husband is so closely tied with someone else. I mean, she knew he was messing around, but falling in love? How could Jocelyn know that? Because why would Alec fall in love with somebody else when Jocelyn knew that she had been doing everything in her power to keep up with what her husband wants? So how could she know that another woman could be sliding into her husband's heart so easily? Well, I tell you one thing she was about to know soon. Gossip claims in March of 1997, Jocelyn's father passed away, and so she left town to spend about 2 weeks with her family. Well, when she came back home, her husband Alec phoned her, telling her they needed to meet up so they could talk. So Jocelyn gets her hair done, her makeup done. You know, she is dressed to the nines. She is ready to receive her husband because, of course, he's always so busy. You know, it's finally time for her. And so they have dinner, and this is when Alec drops the bomb. He tells Jocelyn that he is no longer in love with her and that he's been seeing other women. When Jocelyn asked him if there was any one woman in particular that, he had been seeing, Alec lied. He told Jocelyn no, he's just been messing around with several women. He just wanted to let her know. And the reason Alec lied is because he didn't want Jocelyn to know about Yelena. He didn't want her to try to do anything to mess him up with Yelena. But Jocelyn wasn't no fool. Clearly, she knew her husband had been cheating on her throughout the years with multiple women. She knew that her husband knew that she knew he had been cheating with multiple women. So why would he come and make this declaration now? To tell her, I've been messing around with other women and I don't think I love you anymore. No, what it is, sir, is that you've been messing around with another woman, one woman, and she's stolen your heart. And so Jocelyn made up her mind to find out who this other woman was, and she didn't have to wait long, baby. Because I suppose now that Alec had told Jocelyn that, he didn't love her any longer and he didn't know if they should be married any longer, he felt like now he was free to do whatever with Yelena. And he immediately started spending millions of dollars on Yelena, bought her multiple cars, one of them being a Mercedes convertible, bought her condos, clothes, massive sets of jewelry. She had allowances out of this world. And I'm supposing Jocelyn had access to the money ledger or something like that, because she was able to track these purchases and find out that Alec was spending money on a young lady named Yelena Yarikova. And this revelation made Jocelyn absolutely furious. This little wench has come into her marriage and has turned everything upside down. She's stolen her husband's affection, and now in Jocelyn's eyes, she is stealing their fortune. So to move on with the story, by the year 1998, Jocelyn and Alec have not yet divorced, but they are not spending any time with each other. She doesn't even really know his moves anymore, what state he's in, what country he's in. But one day when she was chilling at the old Jogi Ranch in Africa, she received news that Alec was in New York. So Jocelyn hurried up and called Alec at their residence over there, and she asked him if she could see him. I know things have not been good between us, but I just want to see you, just want to spend a little bit of time with you. You are still my husband. So Alec gave Jocelyn a date to arrive, but he told her that when she got there, under no circumstances was she to come to the property that they called number 11. And when Jocelyn asked why, Alec basically told her, I'm going to be entertaining wealthy guests all day that day. Wealthy businessmen, this is serious, just don't show up. Well, Jocelyn said okay, hung up the phone, jumped on a plane to New York, and promptly arrived at property 11. She walked in on the street level, rushed past the bodyguards, jumped in the elevator, and went up to the 3rd floor, which was the bedroom. Jocelyn said when the doors opened, Alec was standing there naked, except for a towel wrapped around his waist. Jocelyn then shifted her eyes to the bed, where Alex's new young girlfriend was lying there also naked. Well, rumor has it Jocelyn tried to make a scene, but her husband pulled a gun on her and told her just for her disturbing him and disobeying him, now she would leave with nothing and she would be living on the streets from now on. Then he went and grabbed his young lover's hand and they ran down the back stairs to the pool. Jocelyn called the police and had Alec arrested, saying he pulled a gun on her, but that was just part of her get back. The next part was the biggest thing of all, and that was vowing to take everything Alec owned. And baby, she started it that very next day. Jocelyn filed for a divorce, requesting that majority of the couple's money be given to her. But of course, Alec was not going to let that happen, so he decided to fight even dirtier. He had his lawyers not only deny the request, but they also shut down all of Jocelyn's credit card. They froze her bank accounts, froze all the assets. Jocelyn was basically virtually without a dime. And what Alec and his lawyers were trying to do was get Jocelyn to, first of all, agree with whatever amount they gave her. And secondly, they wanted her to just agree to get the divorce over quietly. Take your little money and get this over with. But apparently, whatever amount of money they were offering Jocelyn, she was completely unhappy with. And when they wouldn't budge to give her more, she decided that the best way to move forward was to do full-blown clarity, letting the public know the details while playing the part of a scorned and heartbroken woman. It was a play that wealthy women who were getting a divorce had played many times before. Let the public know the details so they can feel sorry for you. Use the public's sympathy to sway the judge and even sway your husband's lawyers if you can. But Jocelyn didn't consider all of the details that the public would be seeing, like for instance her face. And baby, when the public saw that woman's face plastered on their TV screens and the cover of their magazine, the response was brutal. Folks was calling Jocelyn Catwoman, Sleepwalker, calling her the Beast from the Beauty and the Beast TV show that was out back then. And worst of all, they were calling her the Bride of Wildenstein. It was an absolute horror show, and Jocelyn was mortified. You see, she had been around her wealthy circle. She wasn't just always in public like that, you know what I mean? She was always hidden and just around a bunch of servants and yes men and yes women. So when these people, the regular public were just calling her all these names, it hit her like a ton of bricks. How could they not think she was beautiful? Her lips, her eyes, her cheeks, her chin, they were all styled to perfection. I mean, for goodness sakes, she was a gorgeous feline, a lynx in human form. But no matter how surprised Jocelyn was and how much she tried to convince herself and everybody else that her face was a thing of beauty, people just did not share that same sentiment. And then to make matters worse, Jocelyn's face was not the only detail that made the public go wild. By spilling out the details of the divorce, the public were able to find out that Jocelyn had one day spent $10 million on one shopping spree. They heard of other times of how she had spent $1 million in one day on jewelry. Heard details about how she wouldn't even let a piece of clothing touch her skin if it was less than $300,000. They also heard how Jocelyn told the judge that, she couldn't live without money. She also couldn't live without servants. She told the judge that she didn't even know how to turn on a stove. She didn't even know how to boil an egg. And so do you see how Jocelyn choosing to have full clarity and the details spill out to the public was probably a bad idea? People that go to work every day, hearing and reading things like this is not going to endear them to you. In fact, in the public's eye, Jocelyn was less of a scorned wife and damsel in distress and more of a bored, rich housewife who had so much money that she didn't know what to do with it, that she just started spending money on messing up her face because she was just so ridiculously filthy rich and bored. And Alec, of course, was embarrassed with all of this. And one of the main things that really set Alec off was when Jocelyn realized that people did not think her face was beautiful, and she immediately started pointing the finger to her husband, saying, that she changed her face because of him. So it was a really, really bad and salacious divorce. But in the end, Jocelyn came out with a win, or what I would call a win. The woman was awarded $2 billion and she was awarded $100 million a year for 13 years. That is an absolute heck of a win. But funnily enough, all of this money still was not enough from keeping Jocelyn from filing bankruptcy in the year 2018. And if you're wondering how that happened, Jocelyn's outrageous spending habits and her scandalous behavior after her marriage to her husband Alec were definitely the main culprits. You see, by the year 2001, Jocelyn was done with the divorce and she was ready to revamp, ready to step into her new life. So in the year 2003, she ended up meeting a new man, fashion designer Lloyd Klein. And Lloyd Klein and Jocelyn lived a very extravagant jet-set lifestyle. Jocelyn was purchasing anything he or she laid their eyes on. But very soon there started to be a downside to their relationship. You see, Jocelyn Wildenstein had been hurt by a man cheating on her and leaving her before. And she refused to be put in the same boat this time, so she was a very jealous woman. And per word on the street, was not shy when it came down to busting Lloyd upside his head. Honey, these folks say Jocelyn was busting that man's head to the white meat, and said as she got older, she got even more possessive and more aggressive. She started not even wanting to go on shopping sprees and dinner trips anymore because it's too many women looking at Lloyd. You know, what you smelling at the waitress for? You like the way her boobs look or something? You know, there was a lot of that type of behavior going on. As a matter of fact, in the year 2016, one night it was around 1:30 in the morning when Jocelyn came into the bedroom with Lloyd drunk. You been sneaking around behind my back talking to other women? Do you think other women are pretty? And child, I guess Lloyd didn't answer fast enough or something, so they say Jocelyn laid into him. Now Lloyd was able to kind of push her away and get up and try to run, but Jocelyn grabbed some scissors and sliced him across his chest. So Lloyd kind of bear hugged her and picked her up and walked her over to a closet and shoved her inside of the closet and then locked the door on her. Then he called the police and Jocelyn was arrested. A few days later, Lloyd had returned to the residence to get the rest of his belongings because he was moving out. And while he was there, Jocelyn called the cops saying that Lloyd had hit her, and was pushing her around. Well, Lloyd was arrested, but then somebody sent the police a video showing that it was actually Jocelyn who once again was trying to bust Lloyd upside the head, this time with a glass ashtray. And Lloyd Klein probably should have went ahead and left Jocelyn at this time, but they ended up reconciling, and in 2017 she bust him upside the head again. The folks say she started arguing about Lloyd not giving her enough attention or something like that, and so she started throwing glass dishes all across the floor and then picked up a big shard of glass and acted like she was going to throw it on the floor again, but instead rushed over to Lloyd and sliced him across the top of his forehead. Lloyd fought back this time though, honey, and they say he mushed Jocelyn upside the head and pushed her on the ground. Jocelyn was arrested once again, but when she was asked about this behavior and asked if she had learned a lesson, Jocelyn said she hadn't learned anything because she and Lloyd wasn't even fighting. She said that he got his cuts and she got her bruises because they were having sex, and it was just that good. It might have got a little too rough, but that's the way they did things. And then in 2018, Jocelyn was mad again because she was pretty much broke. And allegedly, she wanted Lloyd to basically give his checks to her. But according to gossip, the whole reason that Lloyd was in this relationship in the first place was to be a kept man. So he was basically looking at Jocelyn like, ma'am, I know you don't think me, the cougar baby, finna give you some money. And so, like I stated earlier, Jocelyn filed for bankruptcy. Now, of course, wealthy people broke and regular people broke are not the same thing. So although Jocelyn was saying she was broke and filing for bankruptcy, allegedly she still had about $10 million left, but she still didn't even start to save with this. By the year 2023, she had 3 of her properties in the Trump Towers repossessed. And when people were asking her, about her funds and how she could lose $2 billion, and Jocelyn basically said, she does what she wants to do with her money. If she wants to do it, that's what she'll do. And I guess after the public found out about her losing her Trump Tower condos and all of this kind of stuff, Jocelyn maybe kind of got tired of the media attention, and so she went off to Paris. And sadly, it was while she was in Paris that she suffered from a pulmonary embolism. And so Jocelyn Wildenstein passed away on December the 31st, 2024 at the age of 84 years old. And this is the end of the old Hollywood scandalous tale of Miss Jocelyn Wildenstein. If you guys liked the video, please like the video. If you guys are new here, please subscribe. I love you guys. I'll be back with another video soon. Bye.